Hello, and welcome to Beating Lyme, hosted by Foundations Wellness Coaching. My name is Justine, and I'm assuming that you are joining us tonight or watching the recording later on because you yourself have Lyme, someone you know or love has Lyme, or you're just curious and interested to learn more. So we have a lot of information to dive into tonight. So I don't want to hold us up too much with it, but a few housekeeping things. First of all, if you can make sure to silence your microphone and turn off your video as well, just so it's not distracting or disruptive during the teaching time with Lisa. And then if you have any questions, Lisa does want to have it open for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send it in the chat to Lisa, and she'll get to those questions at the end. And then if you have any questions that are lingering afterwards, because I know that happens for me sometimes, then you can always send those via email or feel free to reach out to us. So I want to go ahead and read this disclaimer right here. It says, the things that we are covering tonight on the webinar are not intended to serve as medical advice. So you see your medical doctor to treat or cure your medical condition. At Foundations Wellness Coaching, we help you use natural interventions to help your body heal itself. So just putting that out there before we jump in with things. We go ahead and introduce our speaker for the evening, Lisa Schumacher. She's a registered nurse, and from her nursing experience and other things that she'll share with you in a bit, it's led her down the more holistic journey of things, and she's become a certified Lyme practitioner at Foundations Wellness Coaching, and has been a wonderful part of the team here. She's also had the chance to do some training and an internship with the Uprooting Lyme mentorship with Hillary Thine, and she's an ILADS member. So ILADS is the International Lyme and Associated Disease Society. So Lisa has a lot of great knowledge and experience in this topic, and really excited to get to learn from her this evening. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Lisa.
Hey guys, Lisa Schumacher here. I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. My real hope is that you'll walk away hopeful, not walk away feeling how you feel right now, which might not be as hopeful. So first of all, I just want to express why it's important to me. So as you can see in these pictures, I'm an outdoor girl. In the very first picture on the left, that's me as a 1-month-old baby. My parents took me hiking. They took me camping from the time I was really little. And I did that with my children, as you can see some of them in the middle. And I continue to do that today with my husband. And so whether it is, whether I want to be outside hiking or camping, boating, if I want to be gardening or just enjoying my yard, I want to be doing that without the fear of what happens if I get a tick bite. And I want you to be able to do that too. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing a webinar like this. How can we protect ourselves from Lyme disease? All right. So what is Lyme disease? So if you're one of the people that has Lyme disease, you already know a lot of the things I'm going to talk about in these first few slides. But if you're somebody who's new to it, or somebody who knows somebody and you don't experience it, here's some good information for you. So Lyme disease is the most common tick-borne disease in the United States, and it's caused by a spirochete bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi sensu latu. And if you look at the picture on the slide, the spirochete is a spiral-shaped bacteria. And because of that shape, it's able to get into body tissues that other bacteria might not be able to get into. Therefore, it can get all over the body kind of quickly. There are over 100 strains of Borrelia in the United States and over 300 different strains in the world. That can make it difficult for testing. What if you have a strain that's over here, but not over here, and the testing only has strains over here? So chronic Lyme is also called post-treatment Lyme, and it is a multi-system illness with a wide range of symptoms and or signs that are either continuously or intermittently present for a minimum of 6 months. So that's what we're looking for. Somebody who has had symptoms that are unusual for at least 6 months. All right, so let's talk about the difference between acute Lyme and chronic Lyme. So acute Lyme is one that is a new tick bite within 3 months of that, according to ILADS. And it often comes with symptoms that are flu-like symptoms. So fatigue, sore throat, swollen lymph glands, and you might see a bullseye rash. But different statistics say different things. Some say, well, less than 30% see a bullseye rash. Some say less than 50% see a bullseye rash. So it's not uncommon to have a tick bite and not ever have any kind of rash. So this webinar is going to be talking about chronic Lyme. But if you'd like to know more about acute Lyme or what to do for a tick bite, I did a tick bite webinar a few months ago, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, Foundations Wellness Coaching. And if you'd like to know more about that, I encourage you to watch that webinar. So today we're going to be talking about chronic Lyme or post-treatment Lyme. So this is someone who has an ongoing infection with symptoms lasting more than 6 months. And if you look at this very long list of symptoms, fatigue, headache, stiffness of the neck or back, disturbed sleep, joint pain and swelling, tingling, numbness, and or burning of the extremities, confusion, difficulty thinking, forgetfulness, poor short-term memory, difficulty with speech and writing. Now, the interesting thing about Lyme is you might have 2 of those, or you could have them all. You might have one set today, and it might look totally different next week. It might affect one part of your body right now, but the next day, the other side of your body hurts, or the next day, another part of your body hurts, moving around your body. So Lyme is not really like any other illness I know of. All right, so let's see what's next. How common is it? Well, according to an article in the journal Emerging Infectious Diseases, they estimate by using insurance claim data that Lyme disease was diagnosed and treated in about 476,000 patients in the United States annually during 2010 to 2018. Okay, so when I read this, what it says to me is almost 500,000 people are diagnosed and treated. What happened? How many people are bit by a tick and it's sitting in, and Lyme is sitting in their body, and that they're not diagnosed? So I think there are many, many people out there who have had a tick bite and nothing has emerged yet. So let's talk about what happens if it does. All right, so why is Lyme difficult to diagnose? First of all, there's a lot of practitioners that haven't been trained at all in Lyme. And for here at Foundations Wellness, we have a year-long mentorship we go through to learn the different facets of Lyme and how many things go along with it. And you'll see some of that here in the presentation today. But many practitioners, many doctors are not trained in Lyme at all, and so they just don't know how to recognize it. There's also inaccurate testing. So according to Dr. Richard Horowitz, who is a best-selling author of the book, Why Can't I Get Better? He talks about the 2-tiered protocol using the ELISA and the Western blot, and it says it will miss approximately half of those affected due to the insensitivity of the test. So this is a test that is designed to react to the antibodies that the body creates with a tick bite when Lyme disease is present. Well, if the patient tests too early, let's say you know you got a tick bite, you go to the doctor, they test you. Well, your body hasn't had enough time to have those antibodies, so you'll get a negative test. But what if you're somebody who has had Lyme for a long time, your immune system is suppressed, and your body is not creating those antibodies? You will also get a negative test, even when you have Lyme. So inaccurate testing is a big problem with Lyme. So Lyme also is the great imitator. There are a lot of different illnesses, chronic diseases that look like Lyme. For instance, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, chronic fatigue syndrome, lupus, thyroid disease, psychiatric disorders. All of these have been mistaken. So when they've been diagnosed with many of these, when really it was Lyme. All right. So Lyme testing. So ELISA in the Western blot is the most popular test for a Western doctor to do for Lyme. And as I said in the slide before, it's wrong over half of the time. Well, according to the CDC, the test was never created as a tool. It was created as a tool for health departments to screen large populations for Lyme disease, never for an individual diagnosis. So it wasn't created to diagnose anyway, but a lot of doctors use it that way. And often insurance will cover this test. So a lot of doctors feel like they have to use it. And the other labs that are listed are labs that different practitioners will use. And but the main thing the takeaway I want you to have on this slide is that testing is used as part of a clinical diagnosis. It's not used in place of it. So we decide about whether we're going to treat somebody based on our conversation, based on their symptoms, based on the time frame, based on their travel. We don't base it only on a test. We base it partially on a test. But if the test was negative and they have the Lyme picture, we would still go ahead and treat it, even if the testing was negative. All right, so let's see what treatment looks like for Lyme. Excuse me, I need to take a drink of water.
If we can make sure to still go ahead and silence our microphones for participants, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so treatment looks like this. So for the CDC guidelines, and what I want you to know is that the data I have here is for acute Lyme, not for chronic Lyme. So let's first go through acute and then we'll talk about chronic. So for early stage that has a bullseye rash, they would use a broad spectrum antibiotic for 10 to 14 days. And this is for doctors who are going by the CDC guidelines. For neurologic Lyme disease and Lyme carditis, you might use oral or IV antibiotics for 14 to 21 days. And if somebody had Lyme arthritis, depending on the severity, oral or IV antibiotics for 14 to 21 days. And according to the CDC, they have no proven data that anything is effective for post-treatment Lyme. But for a Lyme literate practitioner, if you come in with acute Lyme, they would treat you for 4 to 6 weeks with antibiotics, and then they would follow you closely to make sure your symptoms are gone. And depending on the severity, you might need an intramuscular therapy or IV therapy. And a lot of Lyme literate practitioners also use herbal remedies. So we'll talk about those in just a minute. So when it comes to chronic Lyme literate practitioners will often offer antibiotics for a much longer time. So their goal is they often say to take the antibiotics and then use them for a number of weeks past the resolution of symptoms. So once the symptoms are gone, you stay on the antibiotic for a certain amount of time to make sure that the symptoms are not going to come back, because that's what ends up happening with a lot of people is the symptoms return. So as far as the herbal remedies, those might include the Boehner herbs, Cowden protocol, Cellcore, Byron whites, to name a few. And then some of the specific herbs that practitioners use: cryptolepis, skullcap, artemisia, black walnut, cat's claw, and Japanese knotweed are all effective for Lyme. All right, so how does Foundations Wellness Coaching treat chronic Lyme? So we start with a 90-minute initial consultation, and then each consultation after that is 60 minutes. And for us, we want to know your story. We have the 90-minute consultation so that we can dive in. So you tell us your story, we get a good picture of what's going in, and then we dive into your background, we dive into your childhood, and we look for more clues of what could be causing the issues. Why is your body not able to stay on top of Lyme? Because our immune system should be able to take care of it, but for many people, it's not able to. And so in that initial 90-minute consultation, we try to get a really good picture. During that time, we do a Zyto Elite scan, and this is bioenergetic scanning that's used to reveal stressors that need to be addressed. So whether that's environmental toxins like pesticides, insecticides, different infections like Lyme or strep or mold, or different foods that your body's reacting to, or EMF, these are things that we look for in a Zyto scan and things that we address. And we also address symptoms. So as you can see, and as you know, if you have Lyme, many symptoms that are really uncomfortable. And so we address those symptoms and try to bring those down while we are in the process of bringing the infection down. And during the consultation, we develop a personalized wellness plan. Now, this plan is specific for you. Your friend would have a very different one, and your other friend would have a very different one. It's designed specifically with what education you need, with what resources you need, because we all know different things, and we all have different things. So each plan is very individualized. And then when you come back for another consultation, we review the plan, what's working, what's not working, what adjustments do we need to make? All right, so how do we target Lyme specifically here at Foundations Wellness Coaching? So one of the main things that we really have seen effective is our custom liposomal essential oil formulas. And Dr. Ying Zhang from Johns Hopkins University did a 7-year study on essential oils and Lyme bacteria. And in that study, they found that garlic, oregano, cinnamon, clove, citronella, wintergreen, and many other oils kill Lyme better than the top antibiotics for Lyme. And if you're not super familiar with antibiotics, or I'm sorry, with essential oils, they are highly concentrated extracts from fruits, from flowers, from the wood of the plant, from resins, and from leaves. And they have properties, they are antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitic, and antifungal. So they can be very effective in bringing down infections. And a liposome is a fat bubble. It has at least one double layer in the membrane that is very similar to our own cell makeup. And when you put essential oils, we spin them into the liposomes. They're able to bypass the stomach acid because of the liposome. They're able to get past the bile and the pancreatic enzymes, and they easily flow into the bloodstream and are able to heal and detoxify at a cellular level. Because of those properties, they can be very effective, and they are very safe. We have found them to be very safe. Robert Tisserand wrote the Bible for essential oil safety, and we follow his guidelines precisely when it comes to making our liposomal formulas. If you want to know more about the liposomes, we also did a webinar on those, and it has lots and lots of really good information, and you can find that on our YouTube channel at Foundations Wellness Coaching. All right, so I don't think I mentioned earlier, some of the other ways that we support our clients with Lyme is, one, we offer Lyme testing. So some clients come in not necessarily even knowing they might have Lyme. They might have heard that for the first time from us. And so we offer testing if they'd like that. We also offer environmental toxin testing. So now with the Zyto scan, we can see some of the stressors in their body, but with the environmental toxin testing, we can see some diagnostic information of what is actually in their body. And we really love the diagnostic data. We do some thorough education on ways to reduce their toxin load. So what we have learned is that many people that come in with, whether it's Lyme, whether it's a mystery illness, whether it's an autoimmune illness, that they have a toxin load that is high enough that their immune system is not able to stay on top of just the regular everyday things that come into their body. Okay, so reducing the toxin load is really important for our clients, really important for everybody. Like, we all are working on it. Okay, we don't tell our clients to do things that we're not working on ourselves. So some of these toxins might be found in our water, they might be found in our food, they might be found in household and personal care products. They might be in your home, they might be in the air, they might be at your workplace. So we do some education on how do we even find those toxins? Like, how do I get those toxins in me? Where do I find them? So another thing we look at is gut health. And then we also look at the diet. Like, what are some ways to improve, to increase nutrient density of your diet and reduce the toxicity? All right, so in the next few slides, I want to share with you some of the toxins that are that we find high most often in our clients. And so we're just going to talk about three, but there are three really big ones that if you don't know about them and you don't know ways to reduce them, come in and talk to us. So the first one is glyphosate. It is the active ingredient in Roundup and is owned by Bayer. So Dr. Stephanie Seneff is a senior research scientist at MIT, and she's written and taught extensively on the dangerous effects of glyphosate. So her book, Toxic Legacy: How the Weed Killer Glyphosate is Destroying Our Health and Our Environment, is a really good book if you'd want to know more. She also has YouTube videos, and I've watched a number of them. They are very easy to understand. Her book is a little more technical, but her YouTube videos are not. It's just for you and me. Her book might be written more for practitioners, but the YouTube videos are not. So if you don't know about glyphosate, I encourage you to look for videos on it just to get better educated. All right. So some of the things that make glyphosate different than other chemicals is that it's an antibiotic, it's an herbicide, and it's a metal chelator. And it affects the plant in a lot of different ways, okay? So as a metal chelator, it disrupts the plant's uptake of essential minerals from the soil, including zinc, copper, magnesium, and iron, to name a few. And when we eat foods that are deprived from these nutrients, we become nutrient deficient ourselves. All right, so where is glyphosate found? It's found in food, it's found in water, it's found in restaurant food, golf courses, and in your neighborhood. Most likely, unless you live in a community that says you can't do it, which there are communities like that, most likely you have someone in your neighborhood that's using it. For me, both of my neighbors spray every year. So GMO crops are genetically modified to withstand Roundup. So if you're not eating food that is non-GMO and certified organic, each time you eat, you're getting glyphosate. It's also sprayed on most U.S. corn, soy, wheat, lentils, chickpeas, and sugar beets. And just as the glyphosate affects the plant, it also affects us. So it harms the microbes that play essential roles in our human health. And it causes pathogens to thrive. So when you kill the beneficial microbes, other microbes overgrow, and that's when chronic disease can just thrive in our body. All right, so the next toxin I want to talk about is mold and mycotoxins. So most of you are familiar with what mold might look like in a water damaged building. That's an easy thing. Okay, we've had a leak in our house and it's growing mold. Okay, if you see that in your house, definitely get that fixed. Okay, because it doesn't just stay in one place. Mold like that tends to grow and it can get around your whole house. Okay, Now, mycotoxins are the waste product of mold, if that's a new term for you. When people are sensitive to mold, here are some of the symptoms that they have. And we have a lot of clients that come in who have mold sensitivity. And so what are some of those? Crushing fatigue, gut disruption, brain fog, skin changes, tinnitus, just ringing of the ears, sinus issues, insomnia, anxiousness and restlessness, bladder irritation. Any of these can be signs of mycotoxin illness. And different toxins have some of the same symptoms. So you really need somebody to work with you to figure out, okay, is this mold? So if we did a Zytoscan and we saw a lot of mold on it, and you had some of these symptoms, we would recommend mycotoxin testing. And if the mycotoxins were high on that test, we would have you test your home. We would just go from one thing to the next until we found out, where are those mycotoxins coming from? Did you live in a home in the past and now you have mold colonized in your body? Or do you live in mold now? Or do you work where there's mold? So we try to tease out where the toxins are coming from. It's really important to regain your health.
Could you turn that light out over my head?
Your headlight?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Okay, so many people affected by mold also experience mast cell activation syndrome. So mast cells are the first line of defense in the immune system. And when the body is in a healthy state, the mast cells help fight infections and protect the body. But in mast cell activation syndrome, mast cells fire too often and cause widespread inflammation and many symptoms in different parts of the body. When that happens, so that type of person, when they come in, they'll say, I react to everything. I smell a smell and I break out. Or I eat a certain food and I have all of these gut problems. So if somebody reacts to everything, mast cell activation syndrome may be the reason, and that's something we help people heal from also. All right, so the last toxin I want to talk about is BPA, bisphenol A, which is a plastic. And it's very easy to know many of the places that it is. And you know, for most of us, we grew up using so many plastic things, especially in the kitchen. So water bottles, food wraps and containers, plastic utensils, Ziploc bags filled with hot food. Okay, let me just say here, you never want to put something hot in something with plastic, okay? Canned food has a lining that's BPA. Thermal receipt paper has BPA on it. Every time the cashier hands you your receipt, you could be taking it in. Keurig coffee pods, BPA. Baby bottles, many children's toys, okay? Parents, what kind of bottles are you using for your kids? What kind of toys? Those that say BPA free are often not any better, but sometimes even worse than BPA. So more research needs to be done on that, but that's what I've read so far, is that the different kinds of BPA are not any better than this. Hair straightening products also have BPA. So BPA is a leading cause of hormone disruption, or another way of saying endocrine disruption. And so I'm just going to list a few of the hormones that BPA affects. It affects the sex hormones. It affects leptin, and leptin is an appetite suppressant that helps you maintain a healthy weight. It also affects insulin. Well, insulin helps balance your blood sugar. Another one it affects is thyroxine, and this is responsible for regulating your metabolic rate. So its main function is to stimulate the use of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in the cells to produce energy. So if BPA is affecting these, you're not going to be using the food you take in to give you energy. It's going to disrupt how your body uses its own resources. It's also a xenoestrogen. So this means it disrupts the estrogen in the body, and it can lead to a number of different things. It can lead to female and male infertility, to early puberty, to breast and prostate cancer, and to polycystic ovary syndrome. Okay, so the use of plastic, when it builds up, can cause a lot of problems. So one of the things we do here is to teach you and help you bring down that toxic load. So how is it absorbed? Well, it's mostly absorbed through ingestion. So if you have it in a water bottle, you're drinking BPA. If it's in a food container, when you eat it, it leaches into the food, especially hot food. Remember, no hot food and anything plastic. So an interesting thing about BPA is that it does not biodegrade, but instead it continues to break down into smaller and smaller particles until finally it gets into the air and we're just breathing it. But one thing I didn't mention on the mold, and I'll mention that here also, is mold also lives in the dust. BPA lives in the dust. So if you're not an active duster, and I can say I definitely have not always been an active duster. I've learned a lot in the last few years. Dust your house. Do not empty your sweeper in your tall kitchen garbage. Guess what happens? Dust. And where is it? It's now in your kitchen. So now you have plastics and you have mold where you prepare your food. Okay, so when you dust, you don't just need to dust the flat surfaces, you also dust the walls because mold and plastic also live in that dust. I didn't know I had to dust my walls. I never dusted my walls unless I was painting, but I do dust my walls now. Just take one of the Swiffers and it's real easy. So just a little helpful advice there. And the next slide is on the gut microbiome. All right. So why is gut health so important? All right. So a healthy gut microbiome protects the fragile one-celled lining of the gut. And here I'm talking about the small intestine. And it protects the tight junctions between the cells also. So when the microbiome becomes damaged, the junctions between the cells are also damaged. Then that lets in unwanted microbes, toxins, and undigested food into the bloodstream. So what I just described is leaky gut, okay? So the gut microbiome has a number of different things that it does that until not all that long ago, nobody knew that the microbiome did this. But one of the things is that it is the main source of some of your vitamins. So these include all of the B vitamins. Your gut microbiome produces those. It also produces vitamin K2. It also produces vitamin C. Really, really important. It also produces over 40 hormones and many of your neurotransmitters. So let's just name two of them, serotonin and dopamine. And if you're low in those, that can be associated with depression. So for people who are suffering with chronic depression, looking at the gut microbiome would be a really good idea. Now, 80 to 85% of your immunity is located in the gut wall. It has a very complex and close relationship with the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome feeds it, informs it so that there's communication between the microbiome and the immune cells. It balances it and it keeps it healthy and well. So if your gut microbiome is not balanced, immunity cannot be the strongest, okay? So let's talk about some of the other issues that are mentioned here. So when toxins or food particles or microbes get into the bloodstream, they're able to travel anywhere in the body through the bloodstream highway. And when it gets to the bloodstream, your immune system is notified that there's something that doesn't belong. And when the immune system goes after it, it creates inflammation in whatever area it finds it. So let's say it finds it in your glands. You may start having some sleep issues. Let's say it finds it near the skin. So now you have inflammation near the skin. Well, that could lead to acne, that could lead to psoriasis, that could lead to eczema, or many other skin issues. There's so many. Let's say that the inflammation went to your brain. That could lead to numerous different mental health issues. And let's say the inflammation was in your gut. So that could lead to Crohn's. That could lead to ulcerative colitis. That could lead to IBS. So gut health is super, super important. And that's something that we talk about with each client. So my encouragement to you is to, if you're dealing with any of these issues, is to come and see us and let us go through the education on how to help the gut get better, how to reduce the toxins in your body, and how to help you have a more nutrient-dense diet. All right, so my next slide is my references. If you want to take a look at that for a second. All right, and then and here is my last slide. Thank you so much.
Lisa, thank you for all of that. I see that you guys have been sending in some questions, so we're going to give Lisa a little bit of time here to review and look over your questions before she digs into answering those. So a few other things as she's taking some time to look over those. As Lisa said, if you have any questions, you feel free to give our office a call. The phone number is right there at the bottom of the screen, 513-301-7406. So our office staff is happy to help connect you with Lisa. You can do a phone call with her and just kind of troubleshoot some stuff. You can email her. We're available as a resource. But if you're really looking into, she said, going into more of potential testing and learning more about our approach towards things, or possibly doing a custom liposomal, or maybe you're noticing some of these symptoms and just sort of want to explore stuff. Whatever it is, we would love to be able to connect with you guys and be a resource for you. One thing we do want to mention, because the timing of this will be done before the next webinar comes out, but if you're not already following us on social media or on our email news list, our newsletter, we have a special right now going on for our Jumpstart Detox program. So what that is a 60-minute consult. So you get an hour-long appointment with Lisa, where you get to do the Zytoscan. As she mentioned, we kind of get to look at what are some of those toxins or environmental things that might be disrupting your system. You get to walk away with a personalized wellness plan. And then you also get 3 Ion Cleanse by AMD foot baths included in that, which is a major part of our sort of detox protocol to help push a lot of that junk out of our systems. So all of that is typically $225, but we are doing a sale for the end of the year that is $175, so a $50 savings. And you would just need to call our office and schedule the appointment before December 29th. So that does not mean you have to physically come in for the appointment before December 29th. That just means you need to call and actually make and hold the appointment before that time. So that would just be another way to really dig deeper and to have even more access to all this information. So I think I've covered all the bases. There will be another follow-up email as well with some of these resources and even the reference page that Lisa had at the end of the slideshow, so you guys can get a copy of some of those things as well. But I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Lisa now to answer some of those questions that you all sent in.
Okay, thank you, Justine. One question I have is, are essential oils ingested or placed topically? So in the liposomal essential oil formula, they are ingested. Okay. And that's why it's so important for us to follow the essential oil safety guidelines. And we do that with everyone. All right. So a second question, how long does glyphosate stay in the body? Husband worked in landscape and used Roundup for 20 years. Okay. So glyphosate doesn't stay in the body for any certain amount of time. Everybody detoxes differently. So if you're a person that detoxes very well, it may not stay in your body long, okay? But in the process of going through your body, it still is affecting your gut microbiome and other things. Okay. So it just depends on how your body detoxes. And that's one of the things, like, I think there's a lot of clients that come and see us and they're not good detoxers. A lot of people tell me that, yeah, I'm not a good detoxer at all. So we work to get the pathways open so that they can become a good detoxer. So if you find that you're somebody who doesn't detox well, don't worry. There is still hope. You just might have to work a little harder, but the work is worth it. Okay. So another person said they grew up near a golf course 30 years ago. And so when I have somebody who knows they have had certain exposures, what is the main thing that I want to share with them? You want to, as much as you can, learn how to have fewer toxins coming in and more going out. And you want to live a detoxification lifestyle. Okay. And with every person, it's different. And that's why we have a good conversation at the when you have your visit. All right. So let's see. Okay. Okay, when the body detoxes mycotoxins, does that disrupt the bladder when the bladder is holding prior to excreting? Every orifice of your body can be affected by mold. So if the ear ringing was on there. Sometimes it's something in the nose or the sinuses. You can have vaginal issues. You can have urinary issues. Is it because of holding it? I don't know that it's because of holding it. That could be part of it, but also just because it's just easier for mold to get there, that it can affect the bladder. All right. So let's see. Okay. All right. So what about things made by recycled plastics, clothes, shoes, etc.? Okay, you're speaking to the choir, because I recently realized I bought a pair of pants that was made out of recycled plastics and I was not happy at all. So all of those, we can get plastics in us from that. So it's something to pay attention to. Okay, definitely something that I would pay attention to. Okay, so a question is, how do you know if you don't detox well? I would say people who don't detox well probably get sick a lot more because their toxic load is raising all the time. Okay, so if you're somebody who doesn't get sick you still get colds once in a while, you might get the flu once in a while. But for the most part, you're pretty healthy. Okay, do you sweat? Many people who don't detox well don't sweat. And eventually, when after they've worked with us for a while, they realize they started to sweat. Okay, that's when I know things are really starting to open up. But if you're somebody who's not sick, you hardly ever get sick, you probably are a pretty good detoxer. But if you're somebody who has a lot of symptoms, you have a mystery illness, that you might be somebody who doesn't detox really well. And there's some genetic testing that you can do. There's some genes on detoxing that if those genes are if there's an issue with those genes, that can mean that you're not a good detoxer. So I have people who come in all the time who have done that information before coming, and they know they have more work to do. All right, a couple more questions. Okay, is there an autoimmune component, or is it persistent infection as far as the chronic Lyme? I would say persistent infection. Now, to me, when I think of an autoimmune disease, just based on the research I've done, I believe that the immune system is very smart. And when somebody says, my immune system is attacking, whatever, I think, okay, what's going on in those cells that your immune system believes it has to get rid of them? So in my research, what I found is if infection is in certain cells, the immune system may go after those cells. So let's say there's toxins in your joints. Your immune system may begin to attack your joints, but it's not attacking your joints per se, it's attacking the toxins. So that's one reason to decrease your toxin load, because toxins, remember, once they're in the bloodstream, they can go anywhere. So it's really important, especially if somebody believes they have an autoimmune illness, that their toxin load needs to be reduced. That has to be a piece of their puzzle. Yeah. All right. So if anybody else has any other questions, one of my coworkers is writing them down because I can't see them on the computer. I'd be happy to answer any more. I really appreciate those questions. If you guys have any other questions, okay, she said no more questions. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, what I want you to take away is, chronic Lyme does not have to stay part of your picture. Okay, there we find so many people who improve. They improve so well. Now, if they don't do the work, it takes a lot longer. But for those that do the work, month after month, they come back and they say, this is better, this is better, this is better. And so I just encourage you to make an appointment to come in and see me and see how we can help you feel